The lie behind psychological tricks. Most men who search for psychological tricks to get her to like you are not really looking for connection. They are looking for control over their anxiety. The question is not, how do I know her as a person, but how do I stop feeling powerless in front of her? Behind the need for tricks, there is usually a deep fear. Fear of rejection. Fear of insignificance. Fear that if a woman truly knows who you are without performance, she will not choose you. The darker truth is that many men would rather manipulate perception than risk being genuinely seen. Attraction is not a rational decision that you can hack with a script. It is largely unconscious, built from a mixture of biology, personal history, trauma, archetypal patterns, family imprints, and timing. You can say all the right words and still feel invisible to her, or say something imperfect, and she feels a sudden pull toward you. Trying to reduce attraction to 10 tricks is a form of superstition for intelligent but emotionally frightened men. If there are rules, they can be memorized. If there is a formula, there is no real risk. The first dark psychological truth is that if you are obsessed with tricks, you are already unattractive at a deep level. Not because women can list your mistakes logically, but because they can feel the underlying energy, neediness, calculation, inauthenticity. Humans are extremely sensitive to micro-signals of desperation and falseness, even if they cannot explain why they feel off with someone. When your center of gravity is outside of you, in her reaction, you stop being a person and become a performer. And performers rarely inspire genuine desire, only temporary attention. The second dark truth, treating attraction as a game to win, makes you blind to who she actually is. A girl stops being a human with her own fears, wounds and contradictions, and becomes a target to be captured or a mirror to validate your worth. You don't ask, is she good for me? But how do I make her want me? This shift seems small, but psychologically it turns her into an object, and you into a predator or a beggar. Both roles kill any possibility of a mature relationship. Men who live by tricks often carry a hidden contempt toward women. On the surface, they talk about understanding female psychology, but underneath there is resentment. They only like bad boys. They don't care about good guys. They are emotional, irrational, manipulable. That contempt is part of their shadow, the rejected, bitter, humiliated part of the psyche that has collected every rejection and decided to turn it into superiority. When that shadow leaks out in tone, jokes, or attitudes, no amount of charisma techniques can fully hide it. So the first psychological trick is brutally simple and not at all glamorous. Stop lying to yourself about what you are really doing. Admit that you are trying to avoid the pain of being unwanted. Admit that you want control because you feel deeply powerless. Admit that behind the obsession with her attraction, there is a hole in your own self-respect that you are trying to fill with her attention. This kind of honesty is far more dangerous and transformative than any line you could memorize, which is exactly why most men run away from it. Most men who look for psychological tricks are carrying a wound they don't want to face directly, the terror of not being enough. This terror does not look dramatic from the outside. It hides underneath jokes, bravado, experience, or cynical comments about women. Inside, however, there is usually a boy who once felt humiliated, ignored, or invisible, and who secretly decided, next time I will make sure she wants me. I will not be the one begging again. From that moment, attraction stops being about connection and starts being about power. And power always wants techniques. Under the surface question, how do I make a girl attracted to me? There is often a darker subtext. How do I stop feeling small? How do I guarantee I won't be abandoned again? How do I make sure she never has the power to hurt me like the last one did? When this energy leads the interaction, everything becomes corrupted. Compliments are not about appreciation, but about buying goodwill. Confidence is not grounded presence, but a carefully built armor. Interest in her becomes a strategy, mirroring her emotions, saying what she wants to hear, managing the timing of messages, not because you care, but because you are afraid. The more a man fears rejection, the more his psyche splits. On one side, there is the persona, the charming, confident, witty, high-value version of himself he tries to put forward. On the other side, there is the shadow, bitterness, jealousy, anger at women who ignored him, images of revenge, fantasies of domination or total control. The persona says, "I respect women." The shadow whispers, "They only want status and drama. I'll give them what they want and then discard them before they discard me." This split is not always conscious, but women often feel it as an uncanny tension. Something in him is off, even when his behavior seems correct. One of the darkest truths is that some men do manage to use psychological patterns to generate attraction while remaining internally broken. They learn how to play with intermittent attention, how to trigger jealousy, how to appear slightly distant to activate pursuit, how to mirror her language and emotional rhythm. These tactics can work in the short term because they exploit vulnerabilities in the human nervous system. Fear of loss, hunger for validation, old attachment wounds. But there is always a price. The more you relate to her nervous system instead of her humanity, the more you destroy your own capacity to love and be loved. Every time you treat her triggers as buttons on a machine, you also reinforce a belief about yourself. I am not lovable as I am. I must manipulate. Over time, this belief becomes a prison. Even if she stays, even if she desires you, you cannot fully trust that desire because you know how much of it you engineered. Underneath success, there is paranoia. If I stop playing this role, will she still want me? The more you win, the emptier it feels. The more you become skilled at attraction, the less you believe you deserve it without manipulation. A second dark truth is that many nice guys are not actually kind. They are resentful. On the surface, they are polite, attentive, accommodating, always there to listen. Deep inside, they are counting every favor, every hour, every emotional support session. They expect attraction as a delayed payment for their emotional labor. When it doesn't come, the mask cracks and the shadow emerges. Women only like jerks. I did everything for her and she chose someone else. Being nice is worthless. That rage is not about her, but about the lie he told himself. If I am perfect and self-erasing, I will be rewarded with love. From a psychological perspective, this is still manipulation, just with a softer costume. It is a hidden contract she never signed. I will suppress my needs, desires, and boundaries. In exchange, you will eventually want me. When the contract is broken, his pain explodes. At that moment, many men turn to dark psychology content, looking for ways to finally turn the tables. They don't realize they are repeating the same pattern at a deeper level, using tricks instead of confronting the original wound, the inability to tolerate being unwanted without collapsing. The third dark truth, the energy of "how do I make her like me?" is, in itself, repelling to healthy women. Attraction often grows in the presence of someone who is self-possessed, whose attention can move toward her, but whose sense of existence does not depend on her reaction. When a man's entire being leans forward, begging unconsciously, "Please like me so I can like myself," it creates pressure. She might enjoy the ego boost, but desire usually burns out or never appears. Her nervous system reads him not as a partner, but as a vacuum, a pull into which her energy will disappear. This is why some women chase men who seem cold or distant, not because cruelty is attractive, but because emotional independence reads as strength. The tragic part is that a truly detached man and a deeply defended, emotionally frozen man can look very similar from the outside. One is grounded in himself, able to care without collapsing. The other is so shut down that he can only relate through control, withholding, or games. The difference is not in the techniques, but in the inner structure. Trying to imitate the external behavior of the second kind, men often become a caricature of strength. Performative indifference that feels hollow, not magnetic. If there is any real psychological trick here, it is this. You cannot fake the inner work forever. You might copy the language of confidence, the body language of relaxed dominance, the behaviors of a man with options, but under stress, your real structure will surface. When she pulls away, when she flirts with someone else, when she criticizes you, when sex is not available, that is when the mask cracks. Either you can stay in yourself, feel the sting, and still respect both her and you, or you collapse into pleading, rage, or withdrawal. No course, no script, no alpha posture solves the core panic of, if she doesn't want me, I am nothing. What really creates attraction? Real attraction begins when a man is no longer begging for escape from his own emptiness through a woman's attention. As long as she is secretly being used as medicine for his self-hatred, she will feel pressure, even if he hides it behind charm or detachment. Women may not know psychological theory, but their bodies are incredibly accurate detectors of hidden demand. The feeling that he is not seeing her, but consuming her as proof that he matters. A man becomes attractive on a deeper level when he is no longer at war with his own aloneness. This doesn't mean he doesn't need anyone in the cliché sense. It means he has faced the panic of being alone and discovered he can survive it. Instead of running from silence into compulsive messaging, endless scrolling, or constant hunting for female attention, he has allowed himself to feel the raw fear and shame underneath. That process usually feels like dying at first. All the old stories about being unlovable, unworthy, inferior surface like ghosts. But if he does not numb them with distractions, something else eventually appears underneath, a small, quiet sense of self that does not depend on applause. This inner solidity is not glamorous. It's built in nights where no one texts back, in days where no one notices his efforts, in moments where he says what he truly thinks and watches people pull away. Each time he chooses to stay with himself instead of betraying himself for approval, that solidity thickens. Over time, this changes the invisible atmosphere around him. He walks into a room not with loudness, but with a subtle groundedness. He is there, in his body, in his eyes, not frantically scanning for validation. That presence is felt before any words are spoken. Another layer of genuine attractiveness is his relationship with his own power. Men who chase tricks are often terrified of their power and try to replace it with performance. True power is not dominance over her feelings. It is the capacity to move, decide, and act in alignment with inner truth, even when it costs him. A man who knows he can walk away from situations that insult his dignity radiates a different energy from a man who will tolerate anything just to keep access to a woman. Ironically, the one who is willing to lose her rather than lose himself is often the one she feels most drawn to. This doesn't mean playing games of artificial scarcity or pretending not to care. It means actually being rooted enough to say, I like you, I desire you, but I will not collapse my life or betray my values just to keep you. That boundary is not a tactic. It is a line written in his nervous system through years of failures, humiliations, confrontations, and hard choices where he finally stopped abandoning himself. When he says no from that place, it is not childish defiance. It's self-protection without hatred. Emotional depth is another dark magnetic force. Many men believe that to be attractive they must be endlessly positive, unbothered, and fun. But a woman who has any psychological depth herself often feels bored around a man with no contact with his own sadness, anger, or fear. Emotional shallowness feels safe at first and then becomes suffocating. A man who has walked through his own darkness, grief over past losses, shame about failure, rage over betrayal, and not been destroyed by it, carries a different gravity. He doesn't panic when she cries, doesn't collapse when she's angry, doesn't need to fix or control everything. His capacity to hold difficult emotions in himself makes him capable of holding them in her. Yet this depth has a cost. He has to stop lying to himself. No more pretending that past breakups didn't matter, that childhood wounds are over, that he is fine. He has to let those old pains surface, grieve what was never received, and admit where he has been cruel or cowardly. This kind of self-confrontation is far more brutal than any seduction technique. It strips away illusions and leaves him exposed, first to himself, then potentially to others. But exactly this exposure makes him real, and reality is strangely rare and compelling. Finally, clarity of intention is profoundly attractive. Many men hide their desires behind friendliness or ironic distance, terrified of being too much. They hover around, hoping she will magically understand their interest without him ever risking a direct move. On the other side are men who treat women as conquests, approaching with a cold, predatory agenda. Both extremes lack something crucial: clean, honest desire. Clean desire says, "I am drawn to you. I am not entitled to you. I am willing to hear no. But I will not pretend I feel nothing." That combination of vulnerability and strength is rare because it requires a man to tolerate embarrassment, uncertainty, and potential rejection without collapsing or attacking. In this frame, the trick is not about changing her. It is about transforming the structure inside you from which you approach her. A man who has faced his loneliness, made peace with his limits, integrated his rage, and chosen honesty over image becomes someone entirely different to be around. Some women will still not be attracted, and he can live with that. Others will feel, often without knowing why, that they can relax, drop their own performance, and meet him as a human, not as a prize or an enemy. 10 dark psychological tricks that actually change you. The promise of 10 psychological tricks to get her to like you sounds simple and clean. Follow the steps, get the result. Reality is messier and much darker. There is no ethical way to guarantee that any specific girl will feel attracted to you. What you can do is transform the psychological field you bring into every interaction. From the outside, it might look like tricks, but on the inside, it is nothing less than dismantling who you thought you were. Here are 10 tricks that are not tricks at all, but inner moves that make you more real and therefore more attractive to the right women and less dependent on the wrong ones. Stop trying to be chosen. Instead of silently asking every woman, "Am I good enough for you?" I flip the question, "Are you good for my nervous system, my values, my future?" This doesn't mean arrogance. It means you stop entering every interaction as a beggar. When you evaluate as well as offer, your energy shifts from "please accept me" to "let's see if we are actually compatible." Let one honest rejection break you open. Pick a moment in your past where a woman's no shattered you. Instead of dismissing it with "her loss," go back there in your mind and feel what you refused to feel: humiliation, grief, inferiority. Do not look away this time. Staying present with that pain, without numbing, begins to dissolve the desperate need to never feel it again, the same need that drives manipulation. Kill the hidden contract. Notice where you are, being a good guy as a strategy. Every time you do something nice, while secretly expecting attraction in return, you are making a contract she never agreed to. The trick is to either help because you genuinely want to, with zero expectation, or stop helping. This is brutally clarifying. It exposes how much of your niceness was actually bargaining. Expose your contempt. Write down your real, uncensored beliefs about women. They only like, they never, they always. See how much bitterness and superiority is hiding under your politeness. This is your shadow speaking. You don't need to act on it, but you must admit it exists. As long as you deny your contempt, it leaks through micro-expressions and tone, poisoning attraction. Practice wanting without demanding. Choose a real woman in your life you feel drawn to. Internally acknowledge, I want her. Then add, she owes me nothing. Sit in that tension. No fantasy that it will happen someday. No rage that it's unfair if it doesn't. Just desire without entitlement. This trains your psyche to hold attraction as an experience, not a claim. Confront your boredom. Turn off porn, dating apps, and all easy hits of female attention for a period of time. Notice what rises in the silence: restlessness, emptiness, self-disgust, loneliness. Most thirst is actually an attempt to escape this inner state. If you can't bear your own company, no woman will fix that for long. Facing your boredom is a dark meditation. It shows you the exact size of the hole you are trying to plug with her. Tell one dangerous truth. The next time you are with a woman you like, say one thing that is true for you but slightly risky, an unpopular opinion, a boundary, an honest admission about your life. Not oversharing to shock her, but dropping the performance for a moment. Watch what happens in your body as you speak, the rush of fear, the urge to backtrack. Each time you survive telling the truth, your dependence on her approval weakens. Learn to walk away early. Most men stay in humiliating situations far too long. Half relationships, one-sided texting, being used as emotional support with no romantic reciprocation. The trick is to notice the first signs of self-betrayal, resentment, confusion, constant waiting. When those appear, you do not send another careful message or invent another excuse for her behavior. You step back. Not to manipulate her into chasing, but to protect your remaining self-respect. Choose one standard that is non-negotiable. Decide on a single psychological requirement for any woman you let close. For example, she must speak to me with basic respect, even when angry, or she must show genuine interest in my inner world, not just my attention. Then actually enforce it. The moment this standard is repeatedly broken, you address it or leave. This turns attraction from a one-way hunger into a mutual selection process. Accept that some women will never want you and live anyway. This is the darkest and most liberating move. No matter what you do, some women will feel nothing for you, not because you are broken, but because their history, tastes, timing, and wounds do not align with who you are. When you stop treating this as a cosmic injustice and start seeing it as a neutral fact, something unclenches inside. You become free to show up as you are, instead of as a contortion trying to fit every possible preference. When these 10 shifts accumulate, you don't become a perfect, invincible seducer. You become a man with a spine, a shadow he is not completely ruled by, a heart that can want without begging, and a mind that no longer turns women into gods or enemies. You will still feel fear, still feel the sting of rejection, still make mistakes, but your center will be less fragile. From that place, some women will like you more than you ever experienced before. Others will leave faster than you are used to. Both outcomes are a victory, because the real win is not getting her, but no longer losing yourself trying to.